I came here to do two things: kick some ass and open some magic. I've got a lot of magic, so I'm probably not going to go around to one of those things. We're in a new store in Elson, Ontario, Canada, and we just opened up. We haven't quite hit the grand opening, but we've been open for sales and that kind of stuff, and getting the store ready and buying a lot of stock. And we opened the store just as this came out. And notoriously, just as these came out. And the market doesn't like these. And it's because they're really expensive. They're expensive for us, and therefore, the markup makes it even more expensive for the consumer. But as of today, and for about the last week, it looks like a lot of people on TCG Player, on eBay, maybe on their own websites, have been taking deep losses on these things. Because you think about it, so there's the price that we pay, and then you think, well, there's about a 20 to 40% markup on that. And then, if you sell it on your website, there's about 3 to 4% fees for selling it on there. If you sell it on eBay, that's like 10 to 15% fees. So if you've been buying stuff on eBay and you've noticed, hey, this is getting kind of expensive, it's because there's a tax on eBay, an eBay tax that the sellers have to pay. So, either they could take a loss or really eat into their margins, or they could just pass it on to the consumer. So this is why, eBay, Amazon, Walmart, Target, whatever, they're not really that concerning for stores or new stores because their fees are just crazy. I don't know what TCG Player, because I haven't sent anything to TCG Player yet. I haven't seen what the fee structures look, but they were just bought by eBay, so I can't see that they have really low fees, but maybe they do. I'll see. Let me know in the comments if they have really low fees. Anyway, so you open up a brand new store, and then you end up with this, right? Now, I think it's awesome. I like the Jewel Lotus, and I particularly like Portal 3 Kingdoms. When I was a teenager in the 90s, me and my friends went in on a box of Portal 3 Kingdoms, and then flash forward to 2014, I had them in condition because they were barely used, because they had horsemanship, and that can only be blocked by other cards with horsemanship, and therefore none of our other friends would have played against these cards. So they got shoved away and forgotten about until 2014, when I traded them in for basically wholesale cost HeroClix, because I'm really into HeroClix, and I am into Three Kingdoms, and that goes back to the video game Romance of the Kingdoms, and then later Dynasty Warriors and stuff like that, and also reading the Lu Wanzhou translated by, I can't even name the guy that translated it anyway. It's a 3-book pack that I read, and I've read it many times, and I love everything about that. So the Portal 3 Kingdoms cards were kind of special to me, but what's interesting is and this is how the World Beyond works for me. Anything that's a crossover with Magic, it doesn't quite work. Like take the capture of Jinzu. I don't know which specific capture of Jinzu it's referencing within the Three Kingdoms, because there's at least two. One in which Guan Yu takes it, and one in which it's taken from Guan Yu. I assume it's the one in which it's taken from Guan Yu, but it could very well be the first capture of him coming into the city by flooding, or he destroys a dam and then the flood waters carrying it on a boat, and he takes over the city. The later one involves a new general trying to prove himself against Guan Yu being the greatest warrior, and bringing a coffin with him to the battle, swearing that he'll fight Guan Yu one-on-one to the death, and one of them will leave in a coffin. So the world's first coffin match. But that card doesn't evoke any of that stuff. It has text on it that tells you what the card does, and it's very powerful, and people really like the card. And that's true of a lot of the cards from the Portal 3 Kingdoms set, and the cards that have been included in this Commander Masters. I am excited for them because I like Three Kingdoms, and I'm excited for a lot of the other cards. But I understand that the price for a lot of people is way too high, and therefore the market has collapsed on it. And I don't know what'll happen. Maybe these things will be worthless forever, or maybe there's a limited amount of them out there, and once the people that are taking deep losses run out of the stock that they have, then the prices will start to rise again. But the demand isn't necessarily there now like it was for Lord of the Rings. So we signed up to our distributors basically just as Lord of the Rings came out. So I got one collector booster box for Lord of the Rings, and that went rather quickly, although I didn't make that much money off of it, but it was nice to churn and burn that one. And I don't see that happening with these, and I bet pretty heavily on them, but that's because I kind of believe in the product itself, even if it is high priced. So I guess these might be my very first heavy bags, which is not ideal for a brand new store, but I don't work here full time. I'm a truck driver, and I'm funding the store through my normal job, and then my nephews, they also have their jobs, and we're all kind of working here, running the store, getting everything ready. And one nephew will be spending full-time hours here, and we'll be having a community, tournaments, prizing, that sort of stuff. And I started a Patreon, and it basically just has one level of support, like $1.50 or something like that. And I don't expect anyone to sign up to a Patreon, to a brand new channel. That's kind of pointless when you have no idea where they're going. I know where I'm going, but you have no idea. So Patreon to me is more of I support you because you make content, and I haven't made enough content to expect any level of support than $1.50 a month. But I do have some ideas with that Patreon. It's not meant as a revenue generation tool. It's more of a community building tool. So part of it will be something similar to what other people have done with the Patreons that I guess was innovated by Rudy from Alpha Investments, like the idea of, you're signed up to a Patreon and then you get much cheaper access to larger quantities of boxes, and that's within Canada because that's where the store is. But what I actually am more interested in is the idea of having a Patreon tier level in which people contribute to the prize pool for that store. And if there are people that are locals that are actually engaged at the store, then of course they'll benefit from that prize pool if they're, winning in, the top 3 or the top 5 or something like that, in whether it's Magic the Gathering, HeroClix, Warhammer, that sort of stuff. But for individuals that are not from here, who may travel here and play at this store, but may not within a year, the idea of maybe being patrons of the local players and having, sort of a sponsorship almost, where, the prizing is brought to you by so-and-so who, either joined the Patreon prize pool or sent us prizes directly to our store. I don't know whether that's something that'll take off, but if there is a prize pool tier on the Patreon and that does seem to take off, then the store would sort of match that prize pool up to a certain point. And then we could build the community with prizing, and also, the normal activities of a store and how that interacts with the community. I don't know if any of this is going to happen or whether anyone cares or anyone will join the Patreon, but I would be interested in people's thoughts on this video. If you make some comments, you kind of be like on the ground floor of a new local game store, the patrons of that local game store and its activity, and maybe advising us on how to support our players. And comments on this video within like the next month or so, that would be, to me, considered people have an active interest, and those people are sort of, you know, the OGs. And anyone that obviously signed up to Patreon is absolutely someone who would be an OG, because so far, as I said, there's not much incentive for anyone to sign up for the Patreon, even though $1.50 a month. But if you are interested in that, you can certainly do so, and your thoughts would be weighed pretty heavily in how we proceed. So anyways, I'm gonna open these, because what you can do with product that is, you know, difficult to sell online, impossible right now to sell online for any sort of profit, and you can get rid of it if you want to lose a bit of money. So I'm gonna open it because I want to see some Portal 3 Kingdoms cards. I want to, you know, have a chance at a Jeweled Lotus. The cards from the openings I've seen online, they look pretty amazing and they look really great quality. So I want to see what they look like, and I've never really done a box opening. So I guess we'll get to it.